Do you think you'd know if your partner meant to harm you? That you're in a relationship with someone dangerous? Hi, I'm Dr. Kerry Kerr McAvoy, a mental health clinician and a narcissistic abuse survivor, and this is the 19th episode of Toxic Love. If you're interested in learning more about pathological love relationships, please stick around by subscribing to the channel where each week I'm deconstructing a toxic relationship from start to finish. And let me know that you're enjoying this video by hitting the like button. Before I get started, I have to let you know that this video is not about the narcissist's most common toxic fighting tactics as I advertised. And you're not going to want to miss next week's when I count down the narcissist's favorite way of not fighting fair. I got sidetracked on the topic of evil, but I'll be sure to get back to that subject another time. So let's jump into it, shall we? If you're like most people, I suspect you probably think you're pretty good at spotting dangerousness, but I'll bet you're not as good as you think. Hey, I'm a psychologist who spent years treating people, and I thought I was masterful at it, but my ignorance nearly cost me my life. In this video, we're going to break down the most common signs that we've met, not just someone who's toxic, but very dangerous. If you haven't seen the movie Gone Girl starring Ben Affleck, I highly recommend it as a classic example of misdirection and emotional manipulation, and it nearly cost Nick his life by being sentenced to death for the murder of his missing wife.
Did you kill your wife, Nick?
We meet Nick, an attractive writing teacher who's married to the gorgeous wife and socialite Amy. And we quickly learn that he's cheating and that Amy's found out only to go missing. At first, it appears to the detective that this is a straightforward case of Nick as the immature playboy caught doing something wrong, so he does away with his beautiful wife, only the movie takes a shocking turn. Oh, Nick is definitely a toxic partner, but unbeknownst to him, he's been duped by an even more dangerous player, his psychopathic wife. How could a smart, savvy man, a writer, teacher, miss he was married to someone dangerous? You could probably say it was because it's a piece of fiction and it makes for a good story. Yet how many of us have found out that we've married someone who's done something wrong? And how many people think that they've married the love of their life only to be murdered by that same person? Take Alex Murdaugh, who was just sentenced to life imprisonment this year for the murder of his wife and son on their hunting estate.
I sentence you for a term of the rest of your natural life. I'm sure they come and visit you
all day and every night.
Or how about the Utah children's author who's being charged with poisoning her husband?
This morning, Corey Richards, who has been charged with the murder of her husband, is now pleading to be released on bond. Prosecutors say the 33-year-old poisoned her husband, Eric, last year by sneaking fentanyl inside a Moscow Mule.
That's because we all tend to make the same errors as Nick in the movie Gone Girl by failing to recognize the subtle signs that we've met potentially a dangerous person. So let's break down what Nick gets wrong so we can learn from his mistakes and spot the emotional manipulation of a dangerous person should you meet one, whether they be a stranger or even a romantic partner. In this clip, Nick makes two critical errors when he first meets Amy.
Amy, who are you?
A, I'm an award-winning scrimshander. B, I'm a moderately influential warlord. C, I write personality quizzes for magazines.
Okay. Well, your hands are far too delicate for real scrimshaw work. And I happen to be a charter subscriber to Middling Warlord Weekly, so I'd recognize you. I'm gonna go with C.
And you? Who are you?
I'm the guy to save you from all this awesomeness.
Based on what you just watched, what conclusions do you think he drew from this conversation? I'll bet he was impressed with Amy's wit, beauty, and sophisticated charm. But what did he not see? Well, first, Nick deduces from Amy's appearance that she's a well-intended person. We often make rapid decisions based on external information that could lead to gravely wrong conclusions. Most of us assume that dangerous people look scary, even monstrous. Think about it for a moment. What does it take for someone to do something really awful, horrible? What character defect or weird habit should they possess? Most often, we imagine they look like Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, hiding away in some cabin writing long manifestos. But how did Amy present? Syrupy sweet, like a wide-eyed baby doll. Certainly not like a cunning psychopath that we later learn that she is. In his book, The Gift of Fear, Gavin Becker writes, quote, "The human predator, unlike others, does not wear a costume so different from ours that he can be always recognized by the naked eye. See, what we don't understand is that most bad people look just like you and me, and that's because whether we like it or not, we all have the propensity to do horrible things. All it takes is the right set of circumstances with the right motivations. We've seen this played out many times. Someone who makes a dumb mistake and compounds the problem by covering it up, or in the heat of a moment says or does something terribly out of character. We increase our risk when we think a nice person or a seemingly good person can't be bad. Remember, Ted Bundy worked on a suicide hotline answering desperate people's phone calls. His victims thought they'd met a nice guy, not a serial rapist and murderer. We will continue to misidentify dangerousness when we fail to recognize evil people look just like you and me. So the takeaway from this is, don't be fooled by someone's presentation. A pleasant or nice-looking person doesn't mean we've met someone good. Nick's second error is recognizing the inequity of sharing of personal information in that clip.
Who are you?
Amy smoothly gathers intel on him while revealing nothing about herself through the use of a cute social game. She distracts him from getting to know her. Dangerous people aggressively guard their privacy. Narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths create a false persona of the good guy and a wonderful woman to keep us from seeing who they really are. If you'd like to learn more about that, please be sure to check out episode number 5 on love bombing. The strategy draws us in, making us think we've met our soulmate. But this is not the only reason they do this. They're also fiercely guarding their privacy. Predatory people are not looking for a mutually reciprocal relationship like the rest of us. For them, it's dangerous to be known, because if we saw who they really are, we would discover a strange weirdness to their interior world. So they use pseudo-intimacy to lull us into thinking that there's real connection when there's not. In the article, How Successive Predators Hide in Plain Sight, author-researcher Dr. Catherine Ramsland writes, "Psychological vampires are people who con, manipulate, and deplete us without remorse, and often with ease. They are the seducers, the white-collared criminals, the con artists, and even the serial killers, who know how to play us with devices like trust, charm, empty promises, pseudo-intimacy, and false excuses. They can only manage this if we believe that they're trustworthy, genuine, honest, and without guile. Thus, they must appear normal, not different. They'll mimic normal relationships until they've earned our trust and then make their move, deplete us without remorse, and move on to someone else." Nick is so ignorant about Amy that he fails to recognize that he knows little about her, including her past, until he goes digging. Only then does he learn that she's been idolized as a literary object for her parents' writing, leading her to create an odd, false front to hide a deeply disturbed person. Watch out for an imbalance of information sharing. Do you know as much about this person as you think you do? Where do they go when they're not with you? Who are they texting or talking to on that locked phone? And is there genuine back and forth about vulnerable things? The takeaway is this: don't let the sense of familiarity you have about someone fool you into thinking that you know them. So don't neglect asking critical questions, especially about inconsistencies. Nick's third error was failing to recognize Amy's charm as an exercise of control. She'd carefully crafted a curated personality that keeps him at bay.
I forged the man of my dreams. We were happy pretending to be other people. We were the happiest couple we knew. And what's the point of being together if you're not the happiest? But Nick got lazy. He became someone I did not agree to marry. He actually expected me to love him unconditionally. Then he dragged me, penniless, to the navel of this great country and found himself a newer, younger, bouncier, cool girl. You think I'd let him destroy me and end up happier than ever? No way. He doesn't get to win.
Watch out for hot and cold behavior, what some experts call the smooth operator. These individuals show up with romantic gestures or share something very intimate, only to walk away or pull away, leaving us feeling off-balanced and confused. They'll suck us in emotionally, only to leave us hanging. Love coach Janie Adamo in her article 6 Signs That You're Being Targeted by a Predator warns, 1 minute they'll pull you in with compliments and promises, and the next they'll keep you at bay with non-action. They'll flat out disrespect you and disregard your wishes. They'll tell you they want to see you and then don't make plans. It's all about tension and suspension to keep you guessing. Manufacturing confusion, longing, and a host of mixed messages is a bad person's hallmark. In this clip taken near the end of the movie, we see a classic example of this when Amy directs Nick on how to behave publicly for the cameras.
And when this spoiled, rich, entitled little boy couldn't have her, he took her. It disgusts me that Amy's not.
You must be so proud. It's been 4 hours.
Nick, what's next for you and Amy?
Right now, it's all about our marriage. When two people love each other and can't make that work, that's the real tragedy. Kiss my cheek.
This wasn't new behavior for her, though. For most of his marriage, he'd ignored it, though, as something cute and quirky instead of seeing it as sinister. The takeaway from this is get an objective take on your partner. This is often tough to do since we interpret everything from our point of reference, so it might be helpful to ask someone you know and trust to offer an outside perspective. The longer I'm in the narcissistic abuse community, the more horrific stories I hear. Animal and pet abuse, violent attacks, strangulations, and poisonings. If you listened to the first episode of this series, then you know my ex may have been poisoning me. And I'm not alone. Just look at these other examples. And please, always watch out for signs of predatory behavior.
A dentist in Aurora, Colorado was arrested early Sunday morning after it was discovered he poisoned his wife by putting arsenic and cyanide in her protein shakes.
Has this video been helpful in identifying why we commonly miss the signs that we've met a potentially dangerous person? If so, be sure to like it and stick around by subscribing to this channel. And if you enjoyed this episode, then be sure to check out last week's when I explained why narcissists like to use the non-apology apology. And you're not going to want to miss next week when I count down the most popular types of gaslighting. Hey, big hugs and stay strong and safe.